When I talk about summer clear-outs, I think you probably think, oh, get rid of the dross. That's not what we're going to talk about here today on this channel. We're going to talk about selling good quality, peripheral first-team players to raise in excess of 100 million or be used as make-weights in deals for Liverpool or for, whoever else is going to buy them as well. Liverpool at the moment are in a position where they've just won the league. And the assumption will pretty much always be that Liverpool would therefore continue with the same squad. But I think the weird thing is, having picked up from Jurgen Klopp, who will be at the trophy lift, Liverpool are now in a position where a lot of those young Klopp prospects or prospects who have developed under Klopp are no longer fitting the mould that Liverpool want. And that is nothing personal, guys. That is purely down to the squad construction of specific managers. And I think that comes down to an appreciation of the overall squad game. This isn't about making it Slot's team. This is about, excuse me, putting Liverpool in a position where if they move a player on because they're coming towards the end of what they consider to be their peak, they've got another player coming in, entering their peak, and that those players are attracted. Let me give you an example. The first of which is Jarell Quansah. Jarell Quansah, we talk about Trent another time. Trent's not giving us any money, so he doesn't exist on this list. Jarell Quansah. Jarell Quansah is a good player in the first place. He is a very solid centre-back. He's still young, still learning his craft, he's still learning to be consistent. But apparently there are rumblings that this guy wants more consistent first-team football. And frankly, even if Konate was going to leave, I think Liverpool would rather bring in another centre-back ahead of promoting Jarell Quansah to starter. He might have started that opening Premier League game of the season, sure, but he didn't finish it. And I think since then, there have been some real struggles for Jarell, and I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's someone who is Premier League quality, but I wonder if the time is right for him at Liverpool. And that's pretty much the question with all these guys, right? The timing at Liverpool right now is so key because they have this transitional phase for so many other players that the peripheral team players actually have to be really strong. First of all, because they're going to be filling in for a lot of those other players, but the squad use of Arne Slot has become very clear throughout the season. He likes to be able to change game states and change the game approach by shifting the personnel on the field and bringing on different attributes, which then change the game. Now you might think, well, he might keep the centre-backs the same. It's very difficult to keep the centre-backs the same when you've got Konate and Van Dijk starting at the back there. You're never going to bring on Konate for Konate, Van Dijk for Van Dijk. And so the smart thing to do would be to bring on someone who's still equally as solid and can fill in other positions, but not as strong as the others. Jarell Quansah is a classic make-weight in a deal with Newcastle. A classic make-weight in a deal with probably just Newcastle. But, say Liverpool want to go to Palace and get, say, someone like Wharton. Well, we've got 30 to 40 million pounds worth of value here in Jarell. I think we might get 25 to 30 million pounds worth of value out of him. But I think if we use him as a swap, sure. If we use him as a buy, I think we get more money. Jarell is a great player. He's also apparently a great young guy, which is why Liverpool and Klopp loved him so much. But I think with Trent moving on, also Joe Gomez moving on this summer, I think we're going to see one centre-back Liverpool brought in, which I think is probably fair enough. I'd be interested to know who you think that is in the comments below. And I also think we're going to see one of those two moved on. Whoever gets the more value in the transfer market, I think we move on. Frankly, if that's Joe Gomez, fantastic. If that's Jarell Quansah, fantastic. Both those guys deserve the opportunity. Easy money. Alisson. Some of you might not want to hear this, but Liverpool have the best roster of goalkeepers in the world right now. And we're going to be forced to make a very difficult decision over the summer. Now, I'm not saying that I think Alisson is not fit to wear the shirt anymore. This is the greatest modern goalkeeper that we've seen. Not even at Liverpool, just that we've seen. He's a fantastic guy to have around the team. He's a fantastic personality. For some weird reason, Liverpool have gone out there and got Mamardashvili. Now, a lot of the evaluation of Mamardashvili is very, and I mean very generous to what he does. He is a good goalkeeper, but he is not Alisson. And when we first brought in Alisson, there was a reason that I suddenly felt so strong around Alisson. His goalkeeping is fantastic. His baseline goalkeeping is great. He is, an 18 goals a season type striker for you in that he saves that many, right? That's his value to our team. And when we won the title, I believe that was actually his value to the team. We have Keller behind him. Kelleher will move on to another side. Jaros, who is currently the backup. I think Jaros might stay and stay as the backup. But there is a chance that Mamardashvili comes in. I want to talk about the other option here. There is a chance, by the way, that Liverpool also sell Mamardashvili this summer and move him on to another team for just equal amounts of value, depending on what Slot wants to do. But I think the reason we bring in Mamardashvili, and this reason only, is that Liverpool feel they know where the Liverpool team is going to go, and they feel that the attributes that Mamardashvili possesses are more suited towards the style of play that Liverpool want to have than the style of play that Liverpool currently embody. So it becomes difficult for us to imagine what it would be like to not have Alisson in goal. Alisson is the greatest goalkeeper that we've had in modern age. He's possibly the greatest goalkeeper we've ever had, but that is a very high accolade. And before you go putting other names out there, I know that there are a lot of great goalkeepers in the history of Liverpool. Don't talk to me about modern goalkeepers. Alisson's the greatest in the modern goalkeeper game. In the modern game. Yes, I think he's as good as all the other good big guys. Yes, Neuer. Yes, Buffon. I think he's up there, guys. Anyway, that doesn't mean he'll always be there. And Mamardashvili is a young, promising goalkeeper. Do I think he has the same attributes as Alisson? Actually, I think he's a completely different kind of goalkeeper. And that's what made me think, right, there has to be a style change that we're looking for here. I actually hear that his distribution is not as good as Alisson's. I hear his confidence on the ball isn't as good. But whether we want that, I know you have to be able to drop into that back line and become that extra auxiliary player, but do we need him to be as tricky on the ball as Alisson? Probably not. What does that mean for value this summer if we're adding Joel Quansah's 40 million or Joe Gomez's 40 million? I think we're looking at Alisson for about 50, possibly, looking at Kelleher for what, 25, 30? Possibly more, probably should be more, but it probably is that. And we're looking at Mamardashvili, if he goes, by the way, that would mean we keep Alisson Becker, for about 50 million, I think. I think he's a good goalkeeper. Probably looking at 40 to 50. That overall is already 120 million in value, and we've not even discussed the midfield in Liverpool or the striking options. So talk to me about Endo, 5 mil, 10 mil, 20 mil. I think he's a 15 to 20 mil player. That's possible that he leaves this summer. He's been a great human victory cigar, and he's been a great lockdown player at the end. But again, I think Liverpool are going to find someone else to do that. I think this summer we keep Grav, Alexis, Sobo, Curtis, and we bring in someone else, possibly Adam Wharton. Tyler Morton, I think, moves on. I think Bajcetic comes back. I don't think he starts. If anything, that's very much we've not seen Tyler Morton play for Liverpool's first team on a consistent basis for a very long time. So that's kind of irrelevant, right? Though Tyler Morton can probably get 20 to 30 million in the transfer market. Harvey Elliott. Harvey, I think, wanted to leave last summer, and I think would probably have very heavily considered it given the option. That doesn't mean he doesn't care about the club, doesn't mean he doesn't want to be there. It means he's a young professional who, as he said in his own words, is looking to protect his own career and advance his own career. Good for him as well, I think. The really smart thing to do would be to get the maximum amount of value out of Harvey Elliott whilst he wants to move on, rather than letting run his contract down and go somewhere else. He's a great player. He unlocks a lot of other teams. In fact, I think he's so unique that actually I've really enjoyed watching him this season, and I think he is. I think he's going to go away and be one of those top Premier League players. Where? It's not going to be City, it's not going to be Arsenal, I think it's got to be that next rung down, and then you go down the table and you sort of go, okay, what are we doing here, guys? And I guess that's my concern. Liverpool will have to find a high-profile buyer that isn't necessarily a direct competition to them. And, I know that they know that if good players leave the club, then they could come back. But I think broadly, Liverpool have had long enough to evaluate this guy and probably know at this point where he fits into the team or doesn't. Seems as if they don't think that he does in the longer term. And I think what they want is more people who can be pushing Szoboszlai, Gravenberch and McAllister for their positions. People who, as Slot himself has said, start, but also are big, physical, imposing players. And Harvey Elliott is, physically, there is a lot of beast-like qualities to him, but he is not that big, imposing player. And he imposes himself in other ways, which I think all the Liverpool fans respect. But ultimately, it's another £40 million. We're looking at £160 million if we clear out these players already, guys. Not least the fact that we didn't spend to any, extended amount last summer. And we're also looking at the fact that Núñez is going to move on this summer. Luis Diaz is I mean, he's a name that's being bandied around. I think there's a reason he's being bandied around. Chiesa's possibly going to go for like a 20 to probably 20 minute. We're probably just going to recoup the value we got from him. I think he was a great backup player in the sense that he seemed good when he was around the team. And then I think we'll keep the rest, frankly. I think Diogo Jota has admitted he's not been playing to his full potential. Selling him at this time, I don't think we're going to get the maximum amount of value out of him to go to whatever place we want him to go to. Cody Gakpo, I think, stays, especially if we bring in someone like Florian Wirtz. I think Salah obviously stays. He's just signed a new contract. Nunez, I think, has to go, especially if we sign someone like Wirtz. But we're looking in that front line at 20 plus 70 plus, 50? That in itself, if you add all of those up, is close to £300 million worth of value this summer. And that's scary if you're, first of all, if you're a Liverpool fan, it's very, very scary. But secondly, it's scary to think of this level of change. A lot of people don't like talking about that. I spoke about that at the start of this season, anticipating that Slot would change a lot of this team this summer and that Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards would do the same. It seems very clear now that Liverpool are looking to make quite big shifts and that this will be a big summer, as Verge has called it, for us. I think it's fairly key that we move some of these guys on, to be honest. And I think allowing some of them to move on will, to some extent, and I don't believe in it, but clear the chi. Nunez, not bringing the vibes right now. Luis Diaz very much brings the vibes. If he stuck around, I'd be thrilled that Luis Diaz had stuck. But it seems as if there are murmurings that he wants to leave. And there have been for a while, and people keep questioning it in the comments. Very clearly, this guy wants to entertain something. Oh, but his comments. The reason these players make comments is to help the club get maximum amount of value. Hey, Trent hasn't been helping us. If you want to go, say this in the media. I don't think that's that unreasonable. Then if you look at that, we've also got Doak, who's attracting 20 to 30 million pounds worth of value at the moment. Stefan Bajcetic, who's probably a 15 to 30 million pound player. We're going to sell someone like Calvin Ramsey probably this summer, or Reece Williams, or Nat Phillips, because we've got Frimpong. Bring in someone like Kirkes, and if you've got Kirkes backed up by someone like Andy Robertson, you're probably looking at a rotational midfield there. And I just think what we're looking at here is a Liverpool squad which, as we've seen with Arne Slot, he doesn't like to rotate them all the time, but he likes to change game states and game approaches and tactics within game and keep them flexible. As is the trendy word at the moment, variance. And I think what we're finding is that Liverpool were a pretty quick solve when they brought on Darwin Nunez. We didn't see Chiesa, so we didn't know how to solve him. But they also felt the same about Jota. I felt the same about Harvey Elliott. I felt the same about Endo's not a solve. He's a defensive player who kind of shores things up. And I feel that the weak points in that back line were very often targeted as, well, it wasn't Joe Gomez. I think he's been a great servant to the club, but he is now, in a position where he probably does want to move on. And we don't run down your contract. And then Jarell Quansah, who I think is great, but ultimately doesn't serve the purpose. Guys, that's a £300 million summer for Liverpool. Meaning I don't think all those guys are going to move on at once. But I think what it does allow us to do is say, well, if we can accrue this amount of value, 150 to 200 million, PSR is looking pretty good. PSR rule's working in this case. And players who we want to move on anyway are getting value in the market. It doesn't make Liverpool a selling club. It just means that what Liverpool are doing is finding and upgrading value. If you were to bring in Wirtz and sell Diaz, you've got a young player replacing someone who's in his peak / is he useful in the way that Liverpool want him to be, I guess is my point. And I know it's hard to understand from my perspective about, I want this Liverpool side to stick together. I want them to always be very consistent. That's great, right? But I just don't know if it's a good thing to almost let players stagnate at the club. And I think sometimes a fresh face coming in is going to make a big difference. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I've heard rumblings around all of these players, and some of them sound like legit things. Some of them sound like people testing the water. And some of them just sound like, well, Liverpool might test him in the market, see what happens. We offered Joe Gomez as part of a trade with Newcastle last summer, a bit before that. Why would we not do the same again? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. That is a big summer for Liverpool. It's not saying all those players go. It's just saying there's your menu of players that possibly could. And I appreciate you guys watching the video. Let me know in the comments below. There is a Patreon down there. There is a Discord that you can go hit. There is also a Super Chat. and I'll see you guys in a little while. Much love.